Welcome to the Action Network studio in New York City. I'm Maria Marino, and this is Green Dot Daily. We're live every weekday at 3 Eastern on the Action app, and if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet. NHL begins today. We'll preview the season with Michael LeBoff and get his best bets. Plus, why should we pat the league on the back? We'll hear that and other takes from Tim Kalinowski, and it's always fun to talk NFL with Chad Millman and Simon Hunter. But before we do, these are the worst beats of the week based on Action Network luck rankings. Ravens were projected to beat the Steelers, but fell short. Falcons beat the Texans by a much slimmer margin than expected. And the Commanders allowed the Bears to not only win, but to go off. As a refresher, our luck rankings grade teams using what's called luck percentage, which is the difference between expected and actual win percentage. Why do we care? Well, unlucky teams are often undervalued when there's a large luck disparity between them and their opponents. So we welcome in the keeper of the luck rankings, if you will, Nick Giffen, joining us now. So give us a rundown of the newly minted unluckiest teams in the NFL.
Yeah, real quick. Last week we went 0-1 in terms of unlucky teams covering the spread. That moves us to 7-5-2 against the spread on the year for the unlucky teams that meet at least one of our criteria, and 106, 59-6 since the beginning of 2018. So the bottom four in terms of our luck rankings, the four unluckiest teams. Coming in at number 29, the Baltimore Ravens. They were, as you mentioned, the unluckiest team of week 5, taking that bad beat to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think it's pretty amazing that the Ravens are 3 wins and 2 losses, but yet they're still the 4th most unlucky team in the NFL. They've played closer to like a 4-win team instead of a 3-win team. And certainly that loss to Pittsburgh is part of the reason why. Number 30 in our luck rankings, which means the third unluckiest team, is a new team in the bottom 3, the Carolina Panthers, the only winless team left. And pretty interesting stat here. If you look at the points that Carolina has scored and the points they've allowed, they've scored 91 and they've allowed 144. Well, our expected score metric has them at 91 and 144. This is the first time that has ever happened this late into a season where a team's expected and actual scores have matched up. So if we use something called Pythagorean expectation for 91 and 144, they really should be around a 1-4 team instead of a 0-5 team. And that's why they're resting inside the bottom 3. Second most unlucky, the Cleveland Browns. They had a bye week and they moved up from the bottom slot because the unluckiest team, the Minnesota Vikings, have another 1-score loss. They're 1-4 this year. All 5 games have been by 1 score. And if we just look at 7 points or less, because their win was by 8 points, if we just look at 7 points or less, they're 0-4 in games decided by 7 or less. So really they should be close to a 500 team. 3-2 would be fair. 2-3 would be fair. Maybe 2-2 and a tie if you want to have an overtime game in there. But Minnesota has played pretty close to a 500 team.
And they can't catch a break. It seems as though their luck will get even worse with an injury to Justin Jefferson, and we're going to talk about that in a few. But let's run through the luckiest teams now.
Yeah, so number 4 in terms of our luck rankings, the 4th most lucky team is the Indianapolis Colts. They beat the Titans in week 5, but we actually had this as a tie game by expected score, 19-19. All 3 wins that Indy has had have not necessarily been 1-score wins. They beat the Houston Texans by more than a score, but by expected score, all 3 wins have been 1-score wins versus their 2 losses by expected score were by multiple possessions. So they've had big losses versus small wins. That actually means, it's kind of not a sustainable record. So they've actually played more like a 2-3 team instead of a 3-2 team. Third in our luck rankings, again, the Philadelphia Eagles. Although they did improve a little bit, they had a nice win and they actually should have won by even more. So their luck percent drops from 28.7 to 23.5%. Number 2, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They remain there after a bye week. And the luckiest team in the NFL, is the team that beat the Baltimore Ravens this past week. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they were number 1 last week. They were the luckiest team this week, so their luck percentage just keeps growing as the luckiest team in the NFL. They're nearly 2 wins over expectation through 5 games. That's pretty crazy. And they're the 3rd luckiest team after 5 weeks in the last 6 years.
Yeah, I think you could argue they shouldn't have beaten the Browns and they shouldn't have beaten the Ravens, but they did. Now, based on your model, any early bets that you're eyeing for week 6?
Yeah, we don't have any luck matchups. There's no large discrepancy in luck between 2 teams facing each other, although it's pretty close with San Francisco and Cleveland. That's a luck difference of 23, not quite meeting our 24 threshold, and a luck gap of around 45%. So again, not quite meeting our 50% threshold. But we do have 2 luck totals. I haven't officially played either yet, but I'm certainly looking into both of these. The first being Minnesota versus Chicago. This luck total is minus 13.1. Again, anything below minus 10 means we want to look at it as a luck under. So we'd be betting the under here on the total. However, luck totals involving the Bears this year are 0-2. Both of their games have been luck unders, and they have both gone over. However, we do have a windy, rainy forecast for this matchup. 20 mile-an-hour sustained winds, gusts close to 40, and gusts close to 30, and a 60% chance of rain. So definitely windy, rainy forecast possible on Sunday for that one. But turning our attention to the other luck under, the second one here, Denver, Kansas City. This is the Thursday night game. This luck total is minus 13.8. And like Chicago, luck totals involving Denver have both gone over, even though they've both been luck unders, so 0-2. But again, windy, rainy forecast, and this one's even worse. 25 mile-an-hour sustained winds, gusts close to 40, and a 70% plus chance of rain. And, we could be a little more confident in that forecast knowing it's 2 days out instead of 5 days out. So certainly the under in Denver versus Kansas City, pretty interesting.
I guess this is the first week that we can talk about weather as being a factor on these NFL games. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on that forecast. Nick, thank you so much. We'll see you again soon.
Absolutely.
Some injuries to be aware of going into week 6. Justin Jefferson will miss at least the next 4 games with a hamstring injury. Devon Achane and James Conner are expected to miss multiple weeks with knee injuries, and Anthony Richardson will miss about a month with a sprain in his shoulder. As we say hello to Chad Millman and Simon Hunter. Simon, which of these injuries is most significant to bettors?
I'm going to shock people and go with James Conner. I just think you can say what you want about Jefferson and these other guys, what they mean to their teams. But when I look at Arizona and watch how their offense plays, it's all through the running game. It sets up everything their offense wants to do. And the games they won, against Dallas, it was all through Conner. Like, he made the big runs that would set up the play action passes that really made the linebacker step up, and they had to account for. So I'm worried about what Arizona is going to be like without him. People don't understand how good this kid's been this year. I mean, even that Dallas game, I think he had 17 carries for over 100 yards. He's just really talented. And every year he's kind of a guy that, I know fantasy football guys know, you can get him really cheap. No one likes him. He's ugly. He's an ugly runner, but he runs so hard and he wears out these defenses. So he's a guy that I project that the line won't really affect him being out, and that's fine because he's a running back. Maybe he'll move by half a point. But to me, it's a bigger deal just because I think their whole offense in Arizona runs through this guy.
Chad?
Well, listen, I'm going to shock people as well, and I'm not going to choose the quarterback on this list, Anthony Richardson. We've already seen what the Colts can do with Gardner Minshew. They're getting Jonathan Taylor further into the rotation. He will become more of a primary weapon for them. To me, it is Justin Jefferson, and I will say whatever I want about Justin Jefferson. Look, he's the guy that makes everybody else on every other defense have to think about what they're doing and when they're doing it. And there's nobody else on that Vikings team that really scares anybody, right? Alexander Madison, I don't think so. Hawkinson, I don't think so. KJ Osborne, not really. So Kirk Cousins, when he's great, is when he has a receiver like Justin Jefferson to throw to. This changes their offensive dynamic strategically, but it also changes their persona and what they are on the field. To me, that's a huge, huge loss.
Well, Simon mentioned, the entire offense running through James Conner. That's what Kevin O'Connell said about Justin Jefferson on Minnesota. But time to play Bet or Pass. This is where I give a statement. Each of you tell me whether you agree or disagree, aka Bet or Pass. So first up, Chad. Now is the time to buy on the Bengals. Bet or pass?
I will pass, mainly because this AFC North is pretty crazy right now, right? You've got the Steelers at 3-2. You've got the Ravens at 3-2. You've got the Bengals, who finally looked decent this past weekend, but they beat a really bad Cardinals team. So we don't know what we're getting there. I prefer to stick with the Cleveland Browns. Simon and I both loved the Browns. During the offseason, we bet the Browns 4-1 to win this division. This before the season began. Many of us were saying this is the best division in football. It was the only division that had all 4 teams rated as having 8 wins or more in terms of season win totals. So I'm still going to go with the Browns. I think they have the best defense, obviously historically good at this point. If Deshaun Watson comes back, continues to improve, I think they have the most talent top to bottom in the division.
What about you, Simon?
Yeah, I was just a big fader of this Bengals team coming to the season, and it was just all about the previous 2 seasons of the fact they already won this division 2 years in a row. They would have to have gave me 10-1 odds to bet them this year, and they're never going to give us those odds on Joe Burrow. But that's what it really should have been, where it's so hard to win your division, let alone 3 years in a row, and especially this division. Last year, they needed Lamar to completely get hurt and that Baltimore team to fall off a cliff for them to win that division. They need every year they've had things break their way. And this year, you're kind of seeing a team that things are not breaking their way. And on top of that, their defense is not as good. That's like the biggest takeaway from these first couple of weeks. Even if Joe looks right and he's getting that offense right, that defense is really what's been that made them play so well in this division over the last 2 years. They're not the same defense. I don't know what's changed, what's missing. Maybe offense have figured it out. It's just not the same defense. So even if Joe gets right and he's fully healthy, I just don't see this team being, above 3-3 in this division. I just don't see them being 4-2 in this division. It's just so hard year in, year out to win this division. We saw it this week with Pittsburgh and Baltimore. In this division, the games are just ugly and sloppy. So to me, that's a bad bet if you're taking them still in the Bengals. I'd wait, see how things play out the next couple of weeks, and then maybe get on this Bengals team.
Yeah, the race still feels pretty open, but as you can see, Bengals in last place currently have the longest odds to win the division at plus 400. Okay, next up, Simon. Brock Purdy isn't even the best MVP bet on his own team. Bet or pass?
I'll bet it, but it's just simply playing the numbers where it's like, where is the value? The value is going to be on McCaffrey. Like Purdy is coming off a 4-touchdown game on Sunday night against Dallas. Like it's just, this is peak as it gets. And this stinks where this week was a scheduled loss. Like if Watson was fully healthy and the Browns were good to go, this was a loss. Like they're going to lose this game every time. The public's going to come in. They're going to hammer this 49ers team, and they were going to lose outright to this Browns team. Now with Watson out, that gives another free win, it looks like, to this 49ers team. They're just going to keep adding these wins up. So if you're looking to win, you want to buy on Purdy, on him being MVP, it's going to be after a loss. Like they play the Eagles coming up in a couple of weeks. Like there's a couple of games where you can see them trip up. This week, it doesn't look like it. So to me, that's a bad bet just because you're buying at the peak of Purdy's value right now. Like him being the favorite, that's crazy. So I would not be placing a bet on him right now for MVP.
You make a good point on timing, but Chad, what say you?
Yeah, I would pass on this one because of the value. I'm playing the numbers on McCaffrey. Don't forget, McCaffrey about 4 weeks ago, maybe it was about 50-1. Simon and I were talking about him as MVP. It's dropped last week or 2 weeks ago. It was about 25-1. Now it's at 15-1. The only team with 2 players in that top 15-1 or less range are the 49ers with Purdy at 7-1, McCaffrey at 15-1. And look, the 49ers scheme is built to highlight Christian McCaffrey. That's how they're going to win their division. That's how they will get to a conference championship game. That's how they could potentially get to a Super Bowl. It's not designed to highlight a quarterback like Brock Purdy in the same way it wasn't designed to highlight a quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo. So to me, you are buying Brock Purdy at the peak right now. Much as I love the story, it's a pass for me.
Okay, but you still feel like Brock Purdy is a worthy MVP.
Well, right now, I feel like how could you not think about him as being in that class? A, the odds are telling you that.
Right.
But B, they're undefeated. He's the quarterback of the undefeated team. They just beat a team that everyone thought might be the second or third best team in the conference, and they did it overwhelmingly behind 4 touchdowns from Brock Purdy. So he has to be considered as part of the conversation. I just think in the long run, he's not the better bet.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Brock Purdy, the 6th best odds to win the award, by the way, at plus 700. McCaffrey next, but at plus 1,400. And as you mentioned, that jump just probably because of the positions they play. McCaffrey might need, a record-breaking season to actually win it. Finally, Chad, let's move on. It's decided Tom Brady was more important to the Patriots than Bill Belichick. Better pass.
Oh, totally a bet. Clearly, that's the case, right? I was just texting with a buddy of mine who covers the NFL, has covered it for a long time. And we were talking about Bill Belichick. And I'm like, in the end, the guy happened to be lucky enough to have a third string quarterback sitting in his quarterback room who turns out to be the best quarterback of all time and had him play on the same team for 20 years. I'm not discounting. Well, I am discounting how good Bill Belichick is. But part of that is because Tom Brady was who he was. And in the last 5 years, Bill Belichick as a talent evaluator has not been very good. And his teams have not been very good. And if you are the greatest coach of all time, then you're able to overcome a lot of that with some brilliant game planning. Bill Belichick's a brilliant game planner. There's no denying that. But it's easier to be a brilliant game planner when half of the game plan is taken care of because you've got Tom Brady.
As soon as you said your answer, Chad, I'm pretty sure I saw this big grin on Simon's face. So, Simon, your response?
No, he knows better. It's Belichick. It's the kind of thing where Belichick was the greatest coach ever about practicing situations where, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, all these different little things that people don't really care about and don't think that's a big a deal. All they would do is practice these situations. So Brady, when he first came in, was not that good. There was a reason he dropped so far in the draft. He would lack a lot of talent. And what he did have was smarts and that clutch gene. And those early years, it was all that defense. And then you can go look at the Super Bowls they lost. Were those losses on Belichick? I mean, the only bad loss I really put on Belichick was the Eagles Super Bowl where they got blown out defensively. But against the Giants, both those games, the Belichick's defense dominated the Giants' defense. It was Brady that could not do anything against the Giants' offense. Then you flash forward to they lose that Super Bowl to the Eagles. They make it back the next year, and they play one of the best offenses we've ever seen with Goff, the Rams, Todd Gurley. They did nothing. That was against Belichick and that defense. And, yes, Tom Brady's situation, the guy is incredible. He's the best quarterback ever. We all know that. But you needed each other. Belichick was the one that taught him all those things in the early years, turned him into what he was, which is one of the smartest quarterbacks he's ever seen. There was no defense he hadn't seen or prepared for because Belichick. The guy taught him everything he knew about reading defenses, everything. So I get it. It's an easy thing to say. It's like Brady because Belichick is easy to punch down on right now. But I still think you need one and the other. You can be the greatest coach ever. If you don't have the quarterback, it doesn't matter. Andy Reid, as an Eagles fan, we were great all those years with McNabb. Kevin Cobb came in. I think Andy Reid went 4-12. You lose your good quarterback, doesn't matter how good of a coach you are, you're going to suck. So the Belichick stuff, he's just going to take a lot of heat right now. It's hard to defend him because they've looked so bad, but the defense, I can't really blame it. It's just he has no quarterback. If you have no offense, doesn't matter how good your defense is. Those guys are going to get tired eventually.
That was quite the rant by Simon, even though it's not an angry rant. But Chad, excuse me. I feel like you need to get the last word and chime in.
You listen. If you just want to combine me and Simon into one entity,
you see what I did there? It was chime in, Simon,
and
Chad.
You're calling us chime in. I'm totally
just word vomit. It's fine. I'm trying to give you the last word here.
Brady and Belichick of gambling podcasting.
Please just chime in and save me, please.
Everything Simon is saying is correct. Especially the stuff he said at the end, which is if you don't have a great quarterback, you're not a great coach. It is a players' league. The players make the difference. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. Brady makes Belichick, not the other way around.
I actually do agree with you on this, Chad, and I think that you could say there was a really strong case for this when Brady switched teams and immediately delivered a championship for Tampa Bay. So that's all I say.
I didn't even think of that, Maria. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So I get the last word after all.
Yeah.
Okay, catch Chad Millman and Simon Hunter every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday on the Favorites podcast. Guys, thanks so much. To the NHL, it's opening night, so let's take a look at odds to hoist the Stanley Cup. Hurricanes and Avalanche are tied for first at plus 900, followed by the Oilers, Devils, and Maple Leafs at plus 1,000. Last year's champs, the Golden Knights, are at plus 1,200. As we welcome our hockey expert, Michael LeBoff, back to the show. It's good to see you again. When you look at these championship odds, what's your reaction?
Yeah, at the top of the board, I think it makes a lot of sense. It feels like this season will be kind of like the Kentucky Derby in the NHL. We don't really have a clear favorite for the first time in a few seasons. It was the Avalanche in back-to-back years, and teams like the Lightning or the Maple Leafs in seasons before that. So it feels a lot more wide open than it has in the kind of COVID era of the NHL, and that's good news for people like me. I love the parity, and I think that if you were to find a team near the top of the board that you like, a favorite, I guess I would lean towards Edmonton. The Oilers are built to not just be really good in the regular season, but by the time we get to the playoffs, I think this team should be hitting all the right notes. They've obviously got two of the best players in the world, the best player in the world in Connor McDavid, and he tilts the scales so much. So it's not a hot take at all, but I think if I had to select a favorite or a team from the top, it would be Edmonton. Okay, so what about long shot bets? Yeah, I think there's a few you could make a pretty salient argument for. I know I'm wearing an Islanders hat and an Islanders fan, but I do think that they are the type of team that, should they get into the playoffs, will be a pretty tough out. They've got great goaltending, a very well-structured defense, a team that's played together for quite a long time. So for the Islanders, the biggest question is, will they get into the dance? They have the players to kind of get them through. So I think that getting 50-1 on a team like that is never a bad thing. And then I like Calgary in a similar vein. They should be a bounce back candidate after really underperforming last season. They should get much better goaltending, and they were really unlucky when it came to overtime and shootout games last year. Had they just gone like 40% in after regulation in 22-23, they would have been in the playoffs pretty easily. And like the Islanders, they're deep enough and well-structured defensively, so they should also be a tough team to deal with in the postseason. And then the Senators, they're a really high-ceiling team for me. If the goaltending holds up and this team does get the leap forward seasons expected from some of their young forwards, we could see them be what the New Jersey Devils were last year. So those are the three teams I could see a lot of potential value in that section of the board. And real quick, I know you like to put some bets in on some of the award winners, trophy winners. Quick thoughts on that? Yeah, I actually really like a bunch here, and I'll just rip through them. Mikhail Sergachev as a Norris Trophy long shot, he's 100-1. A lot of times this award just goes to the best offensive defenseman, and I think that Sergachev actually has a decent shot at doing that. He's going to run the power play for the Lightning. Should be really good, pretty simple. Ilya Sorokin, he's the favorite to win the Vezina Trophy, which is given to the best goaltender. I actually like him at 170-1 to win the Hart Trophy, which is given a league MVP. If he's good enough to be the favorite to be the best goalie, that means he should be good enough to at least contend for an MVP award if he makes good on that status as a favorite. I also like Andre Tourigny. This is probably my favorite bet I made all summer. He's the head coach for the Arizona Coyotes. He is a bald brother like myself, so that's always good. He has had this team playing pretty well despite a wonky record. They've gone through so much that I think that if Arizona makes the playoffs, they're about plus 480, 500 to do so at some books. He will be the favorite. So getting him at 66-1 for a team that if they get into the playoffs and make good on 5-1 odds, he will likely win the award. That sounds like a great bet to me. And I've seen at BetMGM that he is their biggest liability. So I'm not alone in that market.
Well, thank you for setting the stage for us as far as the season is concerned. But let's talk about the slate for tonight. 3 games on tap. Give us your best bets.
In the first game, a very strange 5:30 p.m. Eastern time puck drop between the Predators and Lightning in Tampa. I'm going to back the Predators as an underdog here. We've seen some money come in on Nashville. I still think the number's fine at plus 130 or better. The goaltending mismatch in this game could be quite large. It's Jonas Johansson going for Tampa Bay against Juuse Saros for Nashville. The Lightning are the better team on paper. They should be able to score plenty of goals throughout the entire season, but they're going to need to without Andrei Vasilevsky in goal. He's out 8 to 10 weeks. And Johansson, his numbers in the preseason were pretty good, and he had a decent 3-game sample last year for the Avalanche. But in the 30 games before that in the NHL, he was really struggling. Below an .890 save percentage and basically giving up a goal below expected per game. So I think that the goaltending disparity here is wide enough to have a play here on Nashville. And on opening night, you do want to tread carefully when it comes to betting favorites. So I do like that the underdog here has a goaltending advantage. In the headliner, which is the 8 p.m. puck drop with the Blackhawks and Connor Bedard and Sidney Crosby's Pittsburgh Penguins, I would lean towards the Blackhawks, and I actually think that Connor Bedard to score at any time, plus 150-ish, maybe you can find a better number out there, is worth a bet. I mean, why not? It could be a lot of fun to see this guy break into the season, break into the league, and having him go in a primetime game against Sidney Crosby. Why not just get in on the party, have some fun? Betting's supposed to be fun, but I think that the number just is too long in terms of the money line on Pittsburgh. It's their first game. They're embedding a lot of new faces into this team. They struggled defensively last year, so a wide open game could actually be a problem against the Blackhawks because Bedard and Taylor Hall, these are really good transition players who can punish you on the counter. So I wouldn't assume that Pittsburgh's a sure thing here, even though the number's pretty big.
I do want to follow up on Bedard because the hype around him seems like it's similar to that of Crosby, back in 2005. Do you think Bedard could have a similar type of career?
Yeah, I'm usually a cynical kind of guy when it comes to this stuff, but it does seem like he's ticking all the boxes. And as much as I'd like to say no, and be contrarian and go against the guy, he's got such a good shot, and he's so good at backing defensemen off already. And in the way the league's going in terms of scoring and the pace of play just increasing every season, it should really suit him. Now, of course, there is an argument to me. This is an 18-year-old player making a huge jump from junior to the NHL, so you can poke holes. But in terms of rookies that we've seen since Crosby, it's really just Bedard and McDavid that have kind of stood out like this. So I think that, yeah, he's in line for something special, which is part of the reason I like betting him tonight and starting his season off and career off with a bang.
Michael LeBoff, we're glad to have hockey back. Glad to have you back on Green Dot Daily. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Anytime.
Tim Kalinowski is back with his takeaways. Tim, hello. We're going to add a wrinkle this time, okay? We're testing your clock management. We're going to ask you to give 4 takes in 4 minutes. Now, since you're a hockey guy, mild suggestion. Start there with your thoughts on the season starting, but let's set our timer. Timer good? Timer's good to go. All right. Ready, set, go.
To the next, leave off to me. Listen, the NHL did a really good thing here. They rarely does the NHL nail it, but they did. It's a great opening night, not up against any football. I mean, sure, you're going against MLB playoffs, but I mean, if you're that deep into that, that's just for you, whatever. But yeah, Connor Bedard, he's the man, and they got him. He's the new face of the league. He's gonna be the face of the league, and they got him center stage on opening night against Sidney Crosby. Out with the old, in with the new. Well done, NHL.
Oh wow, went under a minute on that one. Okay, enough with this praise. Let's get some criticism. I know you normally talk college football, so what do you got?
Yeah, Maria, if you could have stalled there and just taken a knee in the clock.
But I'm a good teammate. I'm a good teammate.
You are. You're playing ball with me. And Mario Cristobal could learn a lesson or two, because what happened in that Miami Georgia Tech game on Saturday night could be one of the worst coaching mishaps I've ever seen. And you sound so stupid. You sound so arrogant to sit on your couch, 14 Coors Lights in, chips running down your face. I'm like, I could coach a ball game better than this guy. But you're right, because all he needed to do was take a knee. And listen, if he doesn't own up to it, to the locker room, I know the offensive coordinator has kind of taken the fall, but if he doesn't own up to it, to the team, I mean, look out below, because they had a lot of promise this year, and it all ends just like that, or it could end just like that.
I am not going to take a knee and just let you continue.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, Maria, how about we go to USC and Notre Dame? USC, Brett McMurphy said it last night on BVOC. USC is a paper tiger. They better learn how to play defense between now and Saturday. He covers up all the stench of that team, and Lincoln Riley couldn't give an F about defense. It just subcontracts it out. It's terrible. I mean, great. He cares more about the Heisman than he does winning ball games. So we'll find out an awful lot on Saturday night.
Yes, we will. And I need to find out what your final take is, because we're approaching a minute left.
Yeah, well, I keep receipts, Maria. I'm just like Dion, and I know no one remembers what I said last week, but what I said was, whoever wins the Red River rivalry, you better hope that team goes undefeated, because I really worry about a one-loss Big 12 team getting into the playoffs, especially because of how good we think the Pac-12 is. I just think they're the worst conference in terms of depth when you look at all 5 Power 5 conferences. And Brett McMurphy agreed with me last night. He said, if Texas wins the rematch with Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game, Texas would get in over Oklahoma, because Texas has that win at Alabama. That's their trump card. So unless Oklahoma goes straight up undefeated, there's going to be some issues for the Pac-12. They could find themselves on the outside looking in. And look at that, 20 seconds left. Mario Cristobal, I could just take a knee.
Wow, just take a knee. It's a novel concept. Wow, you didn't even milk the clock there at the end. Tim, I'm so proud of you. You know why? Because our colleagues talked way too much, and you got the leftovers, and you handled it well. So thank you.
4 minutes, no timeouts. See that? That's how it's done. Someone get me a job.
No. You're not leaving us. All right, we got to get out of here, though. I'm not saying you're not leaving us, but also goodbye.
Okay, but thank you, Maria. Appreciate it.
Remember, any picks we give out here on the show, you can easily reference by following Green Dot Daily in the Action app. We keep track so you don't have to. And that's going to do it for Green Dot Daily. I'm Maria Marino. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you back here tomorrow at 3 Eastern on the Action Network YouTube channel and the Action app.